All right, roll cage is done. All the fabrication work is finished. Only thing left to do now is give it a fresh coat of paint. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Episode number 10. We're finally getting to paint. So like I said at the beginning there, roll cage, all the fabrication work, everything's 100% all finished now. Right before I started shooting this episode, I also went ahead and prepped the entire inside of the car. And basically what that consists of is just scuffing the entire roll cage down, scuffing the inside of the car. That way when I go to prime, it has something good to bite into. So the next step is to mask the entire outside of the car. So I got a roll of paper here, a couple rolls of tape, and I'm going to basically mask off, the outer A-pillar here, the hood portion, rear quarter panels, basically just anything that I don't want to get covered in paint. So I'm going to start masking up the car and we will jump into what's next. Let's get to it. Alright, so I got everything all masked up along the perimeter of the car. All the door gems are all back edged. And I also went ahead and wrapped the underside of the firewall with the paper. I've got that folded up over the hood. But I think using the yellow tape might have been a mistake, because check this out. My shifter right now looks like a giant banana. So anyways, now I'm gonna move on to the masking paper. So I'm gonna mask the entire outside of the car, and I'm also gonna use a technique where you actually drop the masking paper directly to the floor and tape it all the way around the outside of the car. And what that does, prevents any overspray getting underneath the car. And also, more importantly, in my case, I'm trying to prevent any overspray from getting under the hood into the engine bay. So let's get to masking the rest of the car. Got the entire car all masked up, as you can see. Now, I didn't record the whole process because I'm pretty sure you guys would have got bored pretty quick watching me tape up a complete car. But as you can see, the entire hood area, everything in the front completely covered. All the factory A-pillars and everything, factory paint, all covered up. And moving to the back end of the car here, because I welded in the rear wheel tubs, I also have to paint the rear wheel well area. I've got the tape here running along the bottom of the frame rails, up along to the back edge of the wide body kit up here. Brakes and suspension are all covered, and as you can see, the tape and paper running right to the floor of the car. And again, this is to prevent any overspray getting underneath the car or into the engine bay area. And of course, like I said earlier, we cannot forget my banana shifter. So now that this is all done, I'm going to turn this garage into a makeshift paint booth. Kinda. What I'm going to do is hang a couple plastic tarps on the walls, just because I know some of these posters and banners might have some dust looming around on them. I already hit everything with the air gun, but just in case there's any little bit of dust tracing around in the air, by putting up these tarps, it's going to prevent any more dust falling to the ground and getting into the paint. Once that's done, I'm going to come back to the inside of the car, wipe everything down with a wax and grease remover just to remove any little bit of fingerprints from when I might have touched something. Hit everything with a tack cloth, and then we can start mixing the primer and shoot the inside of the car. Let's get to it. Alright, got the walls all covered up with plastic, wiped the car down one last time, blew everything out with air, swept the garage floor one more time, just about ready to go. I'm sure you're wondering why I'm wearing one of these ridiculous looking astronaut suits. Most importantly, even though I'm just priming and painting the inside of the car, because I'm going to be reaching in and out of the car with the spray gun and going all over the place, the last thing I want to do is just make contact with my arm or any other part of my body with any wet paint or primer on the car. So I have to wear one of these ridiculous suits. But let's get to mixing some primer. So what I'm going to be doing is 2 to 3 coats of primer on the car. And I bet you guys are even thinking, what color am I painting the cage? For the longest time, I was planning to paint the cage the same green that my wheels are and everything else on the car. But then I thought, that might be a little obnoxious, a little too much. So what I'm doing is going with traditional Subaru WRC colors, which is a World Rally blue roll cage with a white floor in the cockpit area. Let's get to mixing some primer and start shooting everything on the car. Let's get this car all primed up. And we're back, and as you can see, the entire car is primed already. Unfortunately, it happened again. I think the camera died right as soon as I went to start priming the car. Once it was done, I was letting it dry. I went inside my house to upload the footage, and there was nothing there. That's a bit of a bummer, but everything turned out really good. I'm not a professional painter by any means, and this was definitely the hardest job I've ever had to paint. You know, just because, you know, you're in here with the gun, you're doing everything you can to make sure the airline doesn't touch anything, make sure that the gun doesn't hit anything, and you're on all these weird angles coming up and around here and getting in behind everything. And there were so many little hidden spots that, you know, when I had my last coat of primer on, I was going around and inspecting the entire cage and noticed that, you know, I didn't have primer underneath the door bar in this back section and some other spots that I had just missed because so much going on when you're painting a roll cage, and I guess it's definitely the hardest thing I've ever had to paint. So everything turned out really good though, really happy with how everything's looking. Nice to see everything in one color, you can see all the consistency. Got a couple runs back here on the wheel tubs, but that's normal, that's not a big deal. I'll block sand those out. But yeah, everything looks really good. And now we can move on to paint. So first thing I'm gonna do is paint the floor area. And in order to prepare the floor area for paint, I'm going to sand down all the primer just to give it a nice good smooth finish. Because when I go to shoot the white, overspray is bound to get up onto the roll cage and some other areas on the car. So what I'll do is, once we paint the floor white, I've gotta let it cure for about 24 hours. At that point, I can tape up just the floor area and then sand the rest of the roll cage, the rest of the inside of the car, get any overspray and get the primer down to a nice smooth finish. Once the floor area will be all covered up, and then we move on to shooting the World Rally Blue. So I'm gonna get the floor area all scuffed up, all sanded down nice and smooth, get it all prepped for paint, and I'll come right back to you guys. Alright, so I got the entire floor area of the car completely sanded down. I also went ahead and vacuumed all of the dust up, wiped everything down with a wax and grease remover, gave everything a quick hit with the air gun, swept the garage floor a couple more times, and wiped the car down a couple more times with a tack cloth. And as you can see, I am wearing my fancy white jumpsuit again, which means it's now time to finally mix some paint to start shooting the car. So I'm gonna mix the white paint here, load the gun up, and shoot the floor area of the car, and I'll come right back to you guys. And just like that, the entire floor of the car is painted white. Really happy with the end result, came out really good. The paint's been curing now for close to 24 hours, which is more than enough time to safely put masking tape down and not have to worry about any paint lifting up when I go to remove the tape. So that said, I'm gonna basically tape off the entire floor area, figure out where I want my cut line to be to separate the white paint from the World Rally Blue paint. At that point, I'll also mask up the entire floor area, and then I can move on to sanding and prepping the roll cage and the rest of the inside of the car to get it ready for the blue paint. So I'm gonna get everything all masked up, sanded down and prepped, and we'll come right back to mixing that famous World Rally Blue paint. All right, and that is gonna do it for all of the prep work before I can finally start shooting the car with the World Rally Blue paint. All of the floor area that's been already painted white has been completely masked off. I put a tape line around the entire perimeter where I want to separate the blue and the white paint. As you can see, I'm also going to paint the seat mounts blue as well. You know, all of this work, the roll cage, the wheel tubs, the fuel cell box, all of it has led to this moment right here, finally painting the car World Rally Blue. So let's go back to the paint. So the paint, again, we're using is Subaru O2C paint code, World Rally Blue. I'm gonna get this all mixed up, and I've got these cup systems for my gun. I'm gonna load 4 cups. That way I have all my paint pre-mixed. I'm gonna give it 2 coats, possibly 3 if it needs it in some spots. But yeah, let's get to mixing some paint and shoot this car World Rally Blue. And there you have it, guys. Everything is 100% painted World Rally Blue, and it looks awesome. Really happy with the way everything turned out. So the next thing I gotta do is remove all of the tape and paper from the car. We'll see how everything looks underneath there. And as you can see, my garage floor took a bit of a casualty here. Everything's pretty blue now, so I gotta get that all cleaned up. But let's get this all ripped up, see what it looks like underneath, and go from there. Alright guys, there you have it. Everything is completely unmasked off the car, and this is the end result of all of that hard work into building this roll cage. You know, super happy with the end result of the paint job. It's as good as you're going to get for doing a paint job inside of a garage and not in a proper paint booth, but I'm more than happy with the end result. You know, there's a couple odd little runs hiding in some places and a couple spots that I just completely missed with the spray gun. You know, way up underneath in weird spots, I just didn't see it. First time ever painting a roll cage, and let me tell you, it is not easy to paint a roll cage inside of a race car. So, but again, more than happy with the end result. Everything turned out really good. We'll go to the back of the car here. And you know, everything looks good back here. Most important part though is all the nice stuff under here. It looks good. So all that's left now is final assembly. But that's gonna do it for me today, guys. Thanks again, guys, for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And I will see you in the next episode where I'm either dropping the engine back in the car or putting the inside of the car back together. One of the two, we'll see. But I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.